What's up, everybody? This is Jay, and welcome to my season finale review recap for Lovecraft Country on HBO. Yeah, season 1 is over. We do not know at this point if it's going to be a season 2, and it's going to be something that I would love to see. It would be unfortunate if it isn't a season 2, because this was a great show. I like how they mixed a lot of truth and history with some storytelling aspects, and it was a good blend. And I think that it would be interesting with a season 2. Unfortunate with how things played off with season 1, the finale. Now, if you're new to my show, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna review this episode. At the end, I'm gonna give it a real talk review of what I think about the episode and the show. And lastly, I'm going to give it a Mosco, which is a 4-part rating system that could give you a total score of 100. So let's get into it. First off, when the episode started off, we see Tick and everybody, they bringing D inside through the garage to the bed. And once they lay her in the bed, Tick begins to read this spell, and as soon as he reads this spell, the book of names just opens up and the pages start turning, and it ends on a page that had his birthmark. And Montrose say, "Hey, that's your birthmark." And next thing you know, we see Tick pass out, and before Letty and everybody could come over there, Letty pass out right next to him. And so we see that they in like that house, the Braithwaite house. And he's sitting there talking with Hannah, and it's like kind of red, kind of on fire, kind of, weird type of limbo type situation. And so we see that Letty is in the room with old grandma that she got the book from when the house burnt up. And so grandma's saying, "Hey, look, the one that you carry brought you here." And so then Letty like, "Oh snap." And so now we see, because some people was wondering, why is Letty involved? Well, she part of Tick now because of the child. They share the same blood. And so while Letty was talking with grandma, Tick was in another part of this world, this place, ancestral space that Hannah made. And he was talking with Hannah, and she was telling him that she made a spell to protect and hide all her kin from magic. She said, "I made a spell to protect all I can from magic." And so he was saying, "It's your birthmark." And so we see in grandma, and she's up there telling Letty that Hannah unknowingly made, that ancestral space when she thought that, the night that she opened the book of names. And she thought that at first that it was hell, and she thought that, it was for using the devil tools, which, hey. And so then we see Hannah telling Tick every night that she wake up and she'd be burning over and over again. And so she was saying like the story is being completed, and they got, grandma saying one half, and then, it cuts, and then we see Hannah saying the other half, completing it. And so she's saying that before she took her own life, that she bound the book shut. And then Hannah was saying that, she realized the fire, it was her rage. And then the magic was a gift to pass on and not something to be feared. And so grandma was saying to Letty, take the book. You need to be strong to fix the mistakes that was made. Don't be like Hannah and bind the book. And so Tick, he telling Hannah, "Hey, D is in trouble. I need to save her. I had opened up the book." And she say, "You gonna save them all." And so next thing you know, we see that Tick is going into the old apartment that he was in. And next thing you know, his mama walk in and he damn near break down right on the spot, melt like butter. He run and hug her. They go ahead, sit down on the couch. They sit next to each other. He immediately put his head in her lap like a little boy. And he just so happy to be spending time with mama. And he said, you know what Hannah asked me, mama? And she said, yeah, I know, baby. And he said, but I don't want to die, mama. And she said, I mean, you know, it's all right, baby. I mean, if we don't sacrifice for something important, then what's the purpose, you know, of living? And so he's saying, well, I mean, there's got to be another way, mama. And she's saying, you know, that's one thing that I know is we always tell ourselves that type of stuff. And we know that it ain't. You know, with George and Montrose, I never had a chance. I always told myself I could hit, but I didn't. But I see that you got the best of both of them, baby. And you a hero. Just like in all them stories you read, you a hero. And so, meanwhile, while they talking, we see Letty, and she getting taught how to read the book by Grandma. Now, I know some people probably was wondering towards the end, how did they know how to do all this stuff? But remember, this ancestral space, time is kind of like standing still in a way. It's not the same as the normal world. So they could have been there as long as 100 years in time it felt. And in reality, they was only there, you know, for a few minutes. Anyway, I'm saying that's one possibility. So we see that Tick walk in and he see Letty, and they kind of lock eyes, and Letty pretty much know what's up, and he know what's up. And then his mama walk up, and so she see that he with his mama. She kind of happy for that. And so then they all gather around the bed, and this is a recreation of the same room that they was in when they passed out, the room where Dee is in. So they gather around the bed in the spirit world, but Dee's not in the bed, but they gather around the bed, and then they start doing the spell. And meanwhile, Montrose is still there in the real world trying to wake him up. Montrose, Hippolyta, and everybody. And so meanwhile, they around the bed doing the spell. Dee start getting a little better. You can see in the spirit world, the curse starting to like manifest in like this dark spirit in the bed. And then we see, they notice that Dee getting better. We see the Tick and Letty wake up, and then they Tick telling Montrose he saw mama. And then next thing you know, Dee wake up screaming because her arm looked like just like old piece of oak, burnt oak, roasted bark. I mean, like, she got messed up, so her arm is jacked up. And so meanwhile, we see that Tick, they arguing with Montrose about, you know, the plan and the ability of it or whatever. And he's saying, no, we shouldn't do it or whatever. And Montrose say, no, you know, the book say you gonna die, boy. And then, you know, Tick like, well, the book might be wrong. And so he know Letty look up when he say that, because she know he lying, because Letty know the truth. And Tick, he telling Montrose, you know, that could just be one possibility. That might not be the you know, the case. And so meanwhile, we see Tick, and then he's saying that he been through a lot, you know, all the monsters, everything we been through, we came too far to give up. And so he pretty much talked Montrose into it. Montrose tried to get Letty on his side, saying, you know, talk some sense to this boy. And then he's saying, you know, all my life, the mysterious stranger I've been hearing about was me. I mean, this was what it was meant to be. We could do it. And so pretty much we see they go ahead and do it. They go in ahead, walk. We see as they walk by that monster, whatever he used to call it, Shaga. We see Shaga ranks. Shaga. Anyway, he got him locked up in the dungeon or whatever, because it was making some noise, but he went and put his little hand over it, and it calmed down. And so him and Letty go down to the little secret elevator that was under her house and take it all the way down to the little water. And then they take that to that little Braithwaite spot that they was in. I don't know if they went all the way to Philadelphia. I mean, I don't get that. How did they get there to that spot so quick? Anyway, they got to the little spot. They pour salt in a circle under there and do a spell. Now, I know it was supposed to be that spot connected from when they took from the museum and then did all of that, the Goonies mission. But, I mean, that was kind of quick. But who knows? It may not have been. They just didn't tell us. Anyway, they read from the book of names. Smoke begins to appear. Letty join in and, you know, reading from the book and saying the spell. Next thing you know, smoke appear in this circle. And then we see his Braithwaite that appears. And they keep doing the spell. And he say, "Who are you?" And Tick try to go ahead and stab him real quick, and he missed. And then we see Hannah say, "Your blood there." And he like, "Oh, why you bring me back?" And she's saying, "To do what I should have did a long time ago." And he say, "I gave you more than I gave any ninja. You ungrateful." And Tick tried to stab him again, but you know, it ain't working. And so he like, "You stole my magic," and he disappeared. And so they like, "Oh man, the magic, the circle was supposed to hold him." And next thing you know, we see him appear in the middle of the street, right where Christina is, because, you know, he able to track those that could use magic. And that's the only reason why they wasn't able to get with Tick all this time, because of that birthmark spell. Anyway, it made Christina crash the Rolls Royce right into a damn pole. She flew right through the front windshield, and she was in the car with Ruby. Ruby banged her head, but she was all good. Christina would have been dead had she not had that spell. She get up, walk in the street. He tell her, "Those ninjas got my..." And before he could finish saying book, he was brought back into that spell that they created, into that circle. And so Grandma and Tick Mama was there this time to help. So now they got all of them there, 5 of them. And so Tick this time stabbed him, and he cut a piece of flesh off his body and kill him. And a lot of people was wondering why he do that. But remember, you need, you know, the body and intention, the incantation, and, you know, in order to do the spell and the purpose or whatever. And so that's why they was doing that, to get his piece of his body. And so then they all do a spell and make him disappear, the Braithwaite. And then they do the spell so Grandma could leave. And then for Hannah, they leave. And then Tick was starting to do the one for his mama, but he couldn't finish it. He ain't want Mama to go, but, you know, you can't keep her trapped there. And so Letty ended up finishing it for him. And then, you know, Mama leave. Next thing you know, we see back at the house that she a little mad about what's going on. And she in the bed salty. I guess she must have been left-handed, because that was her arm and she can't draw no more or nothing. And her mama bringing her some of her little favorite food, and she don't want it. She like, "You left me." And she said, "You know what, baby? I did leave you so I could be what you wanted me to be, Orithia Blue." And she said, "She not real." And she say, "I know, but I found a place where she can be, baby. I did. And I can name myself anything I wanted to be. And I can go places that your daddy's beautiful mind couldn't even imagine. And then I named myself to be your mother. And if I knew what was going on, I would have came back. I don't care what you would have did." And so then she say, "Look, I'm sorry, baby." Next thing you know, we see that they arguing over how to complete this spell. And then they saying that they need Christina blood. Now we talking about Letty, Tick, everybody. They arguing over it, and they gonna need Christina blood. And then Letty say she gonna ask Ruby. Now they saying Montrose and Tick, no, don't ask Ruby. She too close. We can't trust her with nothing like that. And next thing you know, they see Christina showing up. She pull up. So they take the little book, hide it or whatever. And then Christina come in and say she want to talk. And so she say, you know, Tick, like, we could talk right here. She say, look, it's nothing personal between our families. You know, and Montrose like, yeah, right. You try to kill my son. And so she say, look, it's a consequence of my spell. It's nothing personal. And she say, look, this is the only way I know how to do it. But if you give me the book, I promise I'll find another way and I'll leave your family out of it. And then Tick say no, which I wonder if he said yes, could he have trusted her? Anyway, she leaves, and as she leaves, she say a spell right next to Letty, and then she grab her stomach in pain, and she say she took my invulnerability. And so then they go home, and while they all go home, it's the X on the door that look like it's half rubbed off, like it's either getting old or something. Maybe it ain't working no more. Anyway, we see Tick, and he calling the Drake Hotel. And next thing you know, we see that it's Kumaho, and she getting hit on in the bar by some white dude, and she speaking Korean. He like, oh yeah, you don't know, you don't know how to speak English. You from around here. She said, I say, are you willing to die to get some of the coochie? And he got up and walked up out of there. Meanwhile, Tick walk in, and he talking with her, and he said, you know, what we had was real, and he apologized, and she was saying, you know, she was sorry, and she said her mama just died. And then she was saying that at first I don't think I could feel something, but then I feel it with you, and then I feel it with my mama died. And so next thing you know, he's saying, hey, look, that's normal. It's just called grief. You know, it's being human. And so she said that she asked the shaman about what was going on. And the shaman said, don't even worry about it. You're going to see many people die. And she's destined to enter the darkness. And so Tick said, hey, look, I don't believe that. You the one taught me we could either be monsters or, you know, we could be the heroes. And so next thing you know, we see Letty at a cemetery, and Ruby come. And so Letty, they at their mama's gravesite, and Letty tell Ruby that she was in jail when mama died with the funeral. That's why she didn't come. And so she say that in a way she was glad. She was sad, but in a way she was glad because mama wasn't ever right. And then Ruby say, yeah, but that's no excuse. And so Letty say, mama didn't know about family. And the truth of the matter is, family is a choice. It ain't an obligation. And so then she started telling Ruby about the book of names. They plan every damn thing. Tell her, ask her to get the blood. Tell her that Tick didn't want her to tell her that he didn't trust her. She tell her everything. And so she say, right now, I need you to be my sister and come through for me. And Ruby like, you still getting family wrong, because to me, you doing the same old thing. You think it's different, but you only need me to be your sister when you need something. And so she walk away. And then Letty say before she walk away, wait, there's some more that you need to know. But then it cuts. So we never find out what she told her. Nevertheless, when it cuts, we see D, she trying to write again, having a difficult time. Then this comic book slide up under the door. And so then Hippolyta say, when she come through the door, that an artist named Ahura taught her how to draw like that, and she gonna teach D. And D like, I'm never gonna draw again like that. And so then she like, look, I know you mad, but this too shall pass. And then she take D into this room, and she was explaining her about how time never stops, this, that, and the other. And then the next thing you know, we hear all these like whizzing sounds and things, and she like, her eyes light up, and we don't see what it is that she showed her, but you know, all them gadgets and stuff going off. D was amazed. So next thing you know, we see Ruby, and she in the basement with Christina, and she like, so what you doing over here? And she said, Christina told her she going over her spell, make sure it's right, because there's so many ways it can go sideways. And she tell her about the 4 elements of magic, and how and why she had to keep William in the comatose state. I mean, Christina was saying so much information, I was starting to think that maybe she already knew at that point that Ruby was up to something. But anyway, they keep talking, and Ruby say, like Christina catch Ruby thinking too hard. And she like, well, what's going on? And Ruby like, I was just thinking about when you got all of that from me. And then she say, but now I remember, which I'm guessing that's when she cut Ruby open and pulled that stuff out of her. But anyway, so Ruby asked, you know, because Christina was worried, and Ruby like, you know, you don't have to worry no more, because you got me on your side, and I'm gonna make sure that you all good. And Christina like, well, you know, if the spell don't work, I killed the last of my family for nothing. And so next thing you know, they start to kiss. And then Christina's like, have you ever? And then Ruby like, it's my first time. And so then next thing you know, they about to get it on, but they cut away from it. We don't really see what happened. Then we see when they cut that Tick is in church, and him and Letty talking about, you know, she glad that he came. They in little baptism white robes, and she the one asked Tick to come do it. He was glad. And so then he a little worried, and she saying, you know, now I'm wondering, is she talking about God or Uncle George? But she's saying, hey, look, you don't have to worry. He is in all of us. He is in you. And then she say, he's even in our baby. And then they kiss. Now they are naming their baby George. So I'm wondering, you all let me know in the comments what you all think. Now, he backs out, next thing you know, at the garage. And he back at the garage, rather, I should say. And he just like kind of taking in all the moments, looking out the window, watching the kids play. It's as if he know this is last time seeing this stuff. And so he kind of almost like holding back a little bit of tears, watching the kids, watching everybody in the garage, watching Montrose put the books up. He watching Dee and Hippolyta talk, and Letty and everybody, and he got a little frog in his throat. He get a little froggy, holding back a little tear, and he like, oh, all right, let's go. And so next thing you know, while they packing up the car, getting ready to leave, here come Ruby walking down the street. And she called Letty over and say, hey, I got it, and pull out the little blood juice. And so now we see she got the little juice, the little jug of juice that they needed. So they hug Letty happy, give her a big hug or whatever. So now we see they on the road to Artem, and they in the car with inside of Woody all packed. And they got the little music, shaboom, shaboom, sha-la-la-la-la-la. And next thing you know, Dee kick off the little sing-along session. And then one by one, they all start joining in. Even Tick come in with the little bass. Montrose throw in a little reluctant shaboom. Everybody having a little happy little family time. And so meanwhile, we see once they get there, that Tick and Montrose in the woods, and they pouring a little salt all around through the woods. And they doing that as part of the little binding spell. And so meanwhile, Tick open up this little container and pull out this look like a little piece of pork chop fresh off the bone. What it really was that piece of meat that he cut off of Braithwaite, the flesh. And then he poured out the little jug of juice that he thought was Christina blood. And then he took it. Montrose like, take a pen, take his water. And so he just go ahead and started biting it and eating it. Woo, yuck. Montrose even knew that was nasty. He passed him a little shot of his little drink, his little, oil that he be drinking. And so then next thing you know, they go ahead, we see Tick walking inside the mansion. And before he get in there, he take off his dog tags and leave it at the door. I guess he knew he was going to be gone, so he was leaving that to be remembered by. And then while he walking inside the mansion, all the village people, they come. And I ain't talking about the YMCA. And so all the people that live in that small village grab him and walk him to this like little containment trap type thing, like it was for Frankenstein or something. And so next thing you know, we see that Letty and Ruby, they in the tower and they doing the spell, writing stuff on the wall with blood and all kinds of stuff. And then while they putting that stuff on the wall, Ruby asks, what if Christina start the spell early? And Letty's like, well, no, she can't. She got to wait till a certain time in the moon. And then Ruby's like, yeah, the witching hour. And then I guess Letty kind of clicked and realized something wasn't right. And so she then says, I'm glad you, when we talked inside the car, inside the cemetery, I'm glad, I appreciate your help. And she like, yeah, I know, that trip was nice. I understand family. You're my sister. And I guess Letty understood right then and there that that wasn't her and that something wasn't right. And so then Ruby say, which is really Christina, now that we know. And she says, I caught Ruby trying to steal my potion. You guys should have never involved her, like I said. And so then she said, and she made me promise not to hurt you. And it's your fault. She's dead. And so then next thing you know, they fight. And so while they fighting, we see Montrose and Kumiho and Hippolyta, and they on that bridge, and they was pouring out the salt. And then all the village people come, and then they get jumped. So it's like a brawl. So they having a fight against all the village people. And at the same time, Letty fighting Christina, who's possessed Ruby's body. And so while they was fighting, Ruby almost fall down this hole that would have killed her, but she pulled her body back up. And then when she does that, she beat Letty out, and Letty fall out the window to her death, like, boom. And it was a wrap. And so we see back at the car, Dee been sitting in the car in the woods by herself the whole time, reading books with a flashlight. I mean, that's just horrible parenting. Anyway, she gets spooked hearing noises in the woods. She got a little flashlight looking around and scared. Meanwhile, Tick, he done got strapped into the Frankenstein machine. And next thing you know, we see Christina walk in a white dress, like a wedding dress with the book of names. And she tell Tick, it was smart to try to hijack my spell. That was a good plan. You should have just left Ruby out of it. And so then that's when Tick realized that that wasn't her blood in it. And she say, that it ain't gonna work. And he like, where's Letty? And so meanwhile, Montrose, they bring him and Kumiho and Hippolyta, the townspeople bring him there to witness. And Montrose is knocked out cold. Meanwhile, Dee in the car, scared, don't know what's going on. And then one of the monsters, the little Shaga Ranks, attacks her and biting the car. And so then next thing you know, the black one that was there for Tick saves and protects her. And so we see Letty begin to wake up. We thought that she was dead, but she wakes up. And then we see that Christina takes out this like half sword dagger and slices Tick from his whole forearm, slices it open on both arms and pouring out blood, and she stands under it and just bathes in his blood. And then she's doing the spell, and you can see like a spirit come from his body and hit her with it. And she, next thing you know, we see Letty finally come there late, and she see what's going on, and Tick sees her, and she see Tick dying, and you know, she mouthed that she loved him, and then he dies, and it's real sad. Then Letty come run behind Christina and stab her with that same type dagger spear, and Christina laugh and turn around saying she too late. And then she's saying that, you know, while she was doing that, Letty was saying the spell the whole time. And then this storm starts, and so all the people run, the towns, the village people, to the YMCA. And so then Christina is saying it's too late, and then it's not working. And so Hippolyta, she say to Kumiho, it won't work unless their bodies are, you know, connected. And so Kumiho start thinking about all the stuff that she's been told and said about being a part of the darkness and this and that. And while that storm was going, it was like a darkness traveling, like a dark cloud traveling into the remains of the Artem estate. And so she goes and stands into the darkness, and it connects. And so she gets the little, you know, little legs that she got, connects Tick and Christina with her tails or whatever. And so now they all connected, and she see the visions of Tick and what he went through, and how he was teaching Dee about the monster, and how we see Ruby and what happened, a little bit of what happened with her. We don't see how Christina killed her, but we see that she laying there like how William and everybody else was laying there. And then we see that Ruby said a spell over Letty's body when Letty was there on the ground. But was that Christina saying that, or was that Ruby? I don't understand that. Maybe you guys could let me know. I'm wondering what you guys think in the comments. And then next thing you know, we see that it's all over, and we see Christina is buried and trying to use a spell, and like really hurt. She like buried under all these rocks and bricks. And Letty comes over to her and tell her that she stopped her, and she like, you bound me from using magic. And she like, not just you, every white person in the world from using magic. Which is like wishful thinking right there. And anyway, we see Montrose finally wake up, and he walk on over there. Atticus, wake up, boy. Tick, come here. Tick, get up, boy. Son, get up, son. And he was in disbelief. And then they all kind of gave him a hug or whatever. And then Hippolyta like, he wrote this letter for you. And she gave him the letter, and then you can hear Tick. He say, I hope you can forgive me for this one last secret. And he say he had to do it to save his family. And he like, but now you got a second chance to be the dad for little George that you always wanted to be. You be little George's grandpa. And so, you know, I guess he could be. And hopefully he don't beat on him like he did Tick, and help him to be a good man. Then we see Dee, after everybody left, you know, we see them carrying Tick, you know, so we see them like made a makeshift stretcher, and they carrying Tick body out of there on the bridge. And so everybody gone, And then D walk in with like a coat over her shoulders, and we see that Christina is sitting there saying, help me, help me. And so D shows up, and then the monster come behind her, and then we see that she like, D, help me. And D like, you still haven't learned, have you? And she take off a little jacket, and she the one with the little RoboCop arm. And so then Christina like, you gonna help me, D? And D just grab her by the throat with the robot arm and like choke her out so hard that her neck bust open, and just like bust her open. Then you can see the little Shaga Ranks monster howl at the moon. And some people, I was wondering, is that monster Uncle George reincarnated to protect her? Or is that just the monster, just one that is just summoned to protect Tick, period, and it's not Uncle George? Now it's time for real talk. I think that this was an excellent show, excellent episode. It had a lot of great points in this show, a lot of good acting, a lot of good story writing, and I think that they could have a part 2. The time travel stuff and aspect does get a little confusing, and it does have a couple small little plot holes. For example, now with D with this arm, and this is just one since it happened in this episode, did she get the robotic arm when Hippolyta took her into that room and you hear all the little micro machines and robots working? Were they making her an arm? Or did she time travel or something using the orrery to do something? Or does Hippolyta, now that she got that little glow things in her arm, have access to time travel now? And if so, nobody noticed that she had this robotic arm while she was sitting in the car the whole time? Nobody noticed, because they did that before. Unless, did she time travel back? And then also, remember, Tick time traveled at the same time that Hippolyta did. So remember, he said that he got pushed back through by a girl with a robotic arm, and she gave him that book. Did he time travel back to that point before he died? And D, because D already had the book and the robotic arm, did he transport there and D just gave him the book back and pushed him through? Or did he teleport to a future date where D was grown? Because if he would have teleported then, wouldn't he have recognized D, since she still looks the same? So, you know, that's a lot of stuff to think about and things. But for the most part, they did a good job on tying all the loose ends together. It was a good story. I liked the actors, the casting. They did a good job. And so, for the most part, they did good with this episode. And there's not really many things you can really point a finger to as far as where they went wrong. So, with that being said, now it's time to give it a Mosco. Now, the Mosco has 4 categories. You can get a top score at 25 in each category. Now, category 1, visuals and cinematography. Excellent visuals. They always have great cinematography, great locations, top-notch cameras, top-notch special effects. Each episode is like a movie as far as quality. And the season finale, I don't want to say series because we don't know, but this was an excellent episode, and I give this 25. Now, storyline and plot, and also I'll throw in acting as well. is top notch also. The storyline is good, it's very interesting, it keeps you intrigued and thinking because it has so many aspects. You don't know what they may be doing from one episode to the next, which builds anticipation and interest because it's so much going on. And it was unfortunate that Tick died at the end, but it's not the typical storyline where the good guy wins, which, you know, is good. And they didn't make you have to wait 6 seasons and then do it. Anyway, I give it a 20. Now, special effects and makeup. For a TV show, they have excellent special effects, excellent use of costumes and makeup, and I give this also a 20. The only way it can get any better is if it was for something like Star Wars, okay? And then also entertainment fun factor. This episode was very entertaining, and I was wondering the whole time, was Tick going to actually die? Was he going to make it? I hope he does. So either way it went, I was very much into it. It was very good, and I give it a 20 as well. So to recap, I gave a 25 for visuals and cinematography, a 20 for storyline and plot, a 20 for special effects and makeup, and a 20 for entertainment and fun factor, which gives it a total most score of 85. So that's a very good episode. And what I give Lovecraft Country overall is about an 85. It's not a 9, and it's definitely not a 10. A 10 is very, very, very hard to attain. But for a show to have 10 episodes and keep an 8.5 is very good. So, I hope you all enjoyed the review, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Check out my other videos. Peace, stay safe, and I'm out.